All right, welcome guys. Thank you for joining our meal prep presentation. I'm going to introduce Christina Lombardi. It says Christina under mine, but my name's Amanda. Hello, my name's Amanda Reckhart. I'm one of the dietitians here at Functional Nutrition RX. I help Christina to manage the practice. And Christina is our owner and founder of Functional Nutrition RX. She is a functional nutrition certified registered dietitian, as well as a master's level registered dietitian too. So without further ado, Christina.
Hey everyone, we're super excited for you to be joining us today. Can you hear me okay? Yeah? Okay. Um, we're excited to walk you through some simple and practical ways to make meal prepping work for you. Our goal is to take away the overwhelm and show you how to make small steps, which can lead to big changes for your overall health and routine. Can everyone see the PowerPoint? Just because I have like
Yes.
it's showing two different
Yes.
ways.
I'm
Okay,
still
good.
trying to figure out how to get my video on, but I can hear you and see you.
Okay, awesome. So what we're going over today, so we're going to try to keep it within 45 minutes long. We're going to be going over what meal prep is, staying organized in the kitchen without stress, grocery shopping with intention, meal prep services, pros and cons of using them, building out balanced functional plates, snack ideas, some brands that we personally love to use and trust, tips for feeding the whole family, and we're going to be sending out some great simple meal prep friendly recipes in our email recap. So what is meal prepping? When we say meal prep, people often picture hours in the kitchen on a Sunday, cooking enough food for the entire week. And that's not what it has to be. While it could be for some people, it doesn't always have to be. It simply just means prepping meals or snacks in advance so they're ready for a future time. This could be as small as chopping vegetables ahead of time or as big as cooking a few days worth of dinner. So it's about making your week easier, not harder. So the meal prep spectrum, it's not all or nothing. It's a spectrum, as you can see in this image. Some people cook every meal in advance, as we mentioned, while others might just get a few ingredients ready to go. So the point here, which is what we're gonna help lead you through, is that wherever you're at in this spectrum, it's okay. And the goal is to just take small, realistic steps. So just kind of like looking at where you're at. If you're at a place where you're this blue top middle one, making a grocery list, going shopping and ordering from a delivery service, maybe you want to like kick it up a notch and plan out some recipes and snacks ahead of time and cook a couple of them. So just kind of figuring out where you're at and what you can do to kind of move yourself forward another step. So, do we skip some slides? Um, the slide we're going to go over is the benefits of meal prepping. So there's many benefits in meal prepping. First, it saves money because you're not constantly grabbing takeout or buying last minute groceries. It saves time because we already know what's on the menu and some meals will already be fully prepped or chopped and ready to go. It will help with weight control because you're more likely to follow a plan if you have everything already ready and laid out, reducing food waste, and most importantly, reducing stress and decision fatigue. When meals are ready to go, you free up mental space for everything else in your day. And so when we think of meal prep, first things first is getting the kitchen ready and designing like your nourishing kitchen. So the way the kitchen is organized impacts your health. Studies do show that clutter increases stress and even affects things like your metabolism and blood sugar. So when your space is clean and organized, your brain can relax and make it easier to make healthy choices. So clean space, clear mind, nourished body. I like to always go over your refrigerator when we're first thinking about meal prepping. First things first is how frequently are you actually looking at your refrigerator and kind of like cleaning things out and reorganizing. I personally do it every 2 weeks, and you'll be surprised after 2 weeks how many things are in there that are wilted, maybe even a little moldy, or things I just completely forgot about and didn't use. So it's important to make sure that I would set a timer or an alarm like every 2 weeks. Let's go through the refrigerator, just a quick tidy up. It takes 10 minutes if you're staying on top of things. This also helps you know what you have and need for when you're going to be grocery shopping. We like to talk about how we're going to store, one second, food. Typically, things that are ready to eat, we want to put on the upper shelves because they are more at eye level, ready to view, but also for food safety reasons. You don't want maybe raw meats and stuff, drippings spilling down on them. We're putting the meats on the lower shelves because, again, for food safety issues, we don't want, if they're leaking, it to drip on your other foods. Also, eye level, like the healthier foods too, because that will just be easier to, hold on, I'm sorry, hold on 1 second. You could sit here, but just, you gotta listen then, okay? 1 minute. Put fruits and vegetables on the counters that are appropriate for the counters. So thinking of a fruit bowl versus a candy bowl, limiting the processed snacks out of eyesight. I like to leave mine in a cabinet, kind of like the further away cabinet. So it's not just always there glaring at me in the face. Some food safety tips, 101 stuff, which we could have like a whole conversation about, but they're here for you. And then we also have kitchen, social media inspiration. So some links here you can go to that have some cool things that can help with your meal prep.
Thanks, Christina. So next we're going to go more into the steps of meal prep. So we're going to go through each of these in subsequent slides. So first, we are going to look at our schedule for the week, right? We're going to take note of the nights we're going to be home for dinner, or maybe some of us might be running around with the kids, like going to extracurriculars or having meetings ourselves, or maybe it's a night we're working late. So we want to take note of when do we have space for cooking. Maybe it's to time block it and treat it like an appointment with oneself so that we're trying not to overcrowd our schedules and it can be purposely placed on the calendar. So some nights might be better for leftovers versus others. And then also trying to plan in when do we want to go grocery shopping, right? Do we want to try to hit the grocery store before things get a little crowded, maybe a Thursday or a Friday, or maybe it's when we have time off on a Sunday or Saturday morning. Sometimes people want to wait till like a Monday or Tuesday till after the grocery shelves are restocked from the weekend. That can also be great. If you do order grocery delivery, you want to consider sometimes say you're ordering on, a Saturday, it might not arrive till a Sunday night versus if you order on a Thursday, you might be able to get it as early as Friday morning. So take into account supply and demand. Then you want to pick your recipes, right? So we're going to try to base our recipes on the Mediterranean food pyramid, or it's very much centered as a anti-inflammatory food pyramid. So if you've been a part of previous challenges or seminars, we tend to like to utilize this as more of a food pyramid. Or, of course, the Harvard version of what's called the USDA MyPlate. It does have a little bit more depth to it in that instead of milk written on the USDA MyPlate, you see water. There's more examples of healthy fats. We did sub in avocado oil as opposed to canola oil for its benefits, and especially it can hold a higher temperature. So avocado oil is great when you're cooking above 380, 400 degrees. However, olive oil is always king, and you should try to use olive oil until you're at 380, 400 degrees. So that's going to be the burners on a high heat. You're maybe using the oven above that temperature or high heat grilling. Of course, this plate details making half your plate fruit or vegetables. So if it's lunch or dinner, it might be half your plate vegetables. If it's breakfast, maybe it's having a serving of fruit, right? So it doesn't have to be so literal. You got to do what is best for you. Maybe 1/4 to 1/2 a lean protein, 1/4. It says whole grains, but we'd also want to include more so like root vegetables or like starchy vegetables like peas, corn, potatoes, sweet potatoes, and most squash, except for like zucchini, summer squash, and spaghetti squash in that category, as those three squashes are more non-starchy. The other vegetables that I did not mention, those are called non-starchy vegetables. Eat as much as you can tolerate. So the goal is to try to make half your plate non-starchy vegetables, but if you're not used to even having a vegetable on the plate sometimes, that's okay. Maybe start with a third or a fourth and lean a little bit on the lean proteins like chicken, turkey, or fish. So in lieu of picking recipes, of course, we're going to send you a recipe packet today to help support meal prep goals. But these are just some fun hacks that we've put together of just different websites, or a lot of these websites also have Instagram accounts, so make it feasible for you. Sometimes I like to go on, say like Fit Foodie Finds or like Real Food RDs for an example, and they have like a recipe filtration tool where you could say, okay, I'm looking for a lunch or dinner. I want to use the grill or the crock pot or the Instapot or the oven or a sheet pan, for example. And then maybe I have, after like Christina said, going through the fridge, oh, I have some chicken I need to use up. And you could filter it by chicken and it'll spit out a bunch of recipes. And it could be something that you use. Of course, when working one-on-one with a registered dietitian, we help to customize your recipes, give you recipes. So it's just a great resource, especially if you have a different craving. Maybe, oh, I'm really craving brownies tonight. Maybe we go on that site, filter it by desserts, and find like a black bean or a zucchini brownie, or just like a healthier alternative. So it's great when you have a very specific craving in mind, or you're trying to figure out how to utilize something. So these are all great websites. Another tool though is, of course, I'm careful about who people follow on Instagram, but if you follow a bunch like some registered dietitians, we're held to an ethical standard. Real Food RDs is a great site, for example, where you can scroll through their account and you could even save recipes, or as you're scrolling and you find recipes that you really enjoy, you could save it. And in Instagram, similar to Pinterest, you can make different folders. So maybe you make like a sweet swaps folder or a meal prep folder or a grilling folder so that when the time comes for you to plan your recipes, that's there and you could go through it. And people are very visual. So when you see the pictures, it might help call to, a greater desire to have that food. Or especially when you're meal prepping with children, they like to see what they want to eat. And you could show them images of the food and have them pick, like, hey, I picked out 3 recipes. Which of the 3 would you enjoy, right? So that might be a helpful tool. So this is just another diagram similar to that of the plate method, where of course everyone's portions are a little different, but this is roughly close to some individuals where you're picking, a grain or a starch. Then you pick your protein, so chicken, turkey, fish, for example, maybe grass-fed beef if it's in your diet, and then you pick a fat. So for example, maybe we're making a stir fry. So we might pick some beans or some rice, right, from the grain or starch. And then we pick a protein that could be some chicken. And then maybe we pick a fat. So that fat could be some olive oil or avocado oil. And then most important here is this middle section is your vegetables. So maybe you pick some bok choy or some broccoli or some bell peppers or zucchini, what calls to you. And then you want to factor in, a way to flavor. So we'll go more in depth with this concept later on, especially with regard to flavoring. We've got some great brands for you guys. So easy to prepare foods. So like Christina was saying, go through your fridge, see what you have. We often like to recommend picking some recipes, but another quick method that we both will lean on, we'll call like a 3x3 method, where you're picking three proteins, 3 starches, and 3 vegetables maybe between lunch and dinner. So maybe you have a rotisserie chicken or a bunch of grilled chicken, and then you choose as your second protein a ground turkey, for example. And then maybe the third protein is some shrimp that you cook up with a little olive oil and garlic, and you have that pre-prepared in some Tupperwares. Then you pick out some grains or starches like a protein or a chickpea pasta, maybe a bean salad as the second choice in that category, and then a third being maybe like some quinoa cooked in, chicken bone broth for a little extra boost of protein and flavor. Then lastly, in the third category is non-starchy vegetables. Maybe you have some frozen broccoli or some materials to throw together a salad, or you have vegetables pre-cut, exactly like Christina said, to lay out so that if you feel like more intuitive cooking during the week, that you could take those options and turn that into a protein bowl, a stir fry, a salad. I'll call it like an a la carte meal where it's like a protein, a starch, a vegetable. And then we have, kitchen staples like olive oil, for example, butter, grass-fed, of course, avocado oil, just to add for healthy fat. So these are just some great examples. Kebabs are something I lean on a lot in the summer because you can get them pre-made without like a marinade, so you could add your own. Often has like some onions and peppers or zucchini and summer squash on them. So you could just take them out of the fridge, throw them on the grill, put it over a nice salad or some beans and rice with a side salad or some vegetables cooked on the side, just to add a little bit more bolster because what's on the kebab stick is often not really enough vegetables. Or you could have, it says cauliflower there, you could even have a bag of cauliflower rice that you throw together with an egg, some cut up chicken, and maybe, it's a night that you go light on the starches. That's okay too sometimes, depending on your goals and your needs. But these are just some easy ways to make your life a little bit faster, a little bit more efficient, and, save some time for you to have with loved ones. Some easy meal prep breakfast. We always get questions about this. It's always like a bit of a tough part because we're up and out in the morning, living that New York minute, that having some quick meal prep breakfast can really help to ensure that by the time your head hits the pillow the night before, you know what you're going to grab for breakfast in the morning. So one could be overnight oats, where you're assembling some oats, some protein powder, a fruit, maybe a healthy fat like chia seeds or natural peanut butter or almond butter. And then, what am I missing? I hit the oats, the fruit, the fat, and the fruit. Yeah, that's it. And then, of course, almond milk as your, mixing agent. You could vary the fruits. You could add different toppings to make it fun. So if you make overnight oats one way, you could add variety by making it different ways so you don't get bored. Some people do like pumpkin pie oats where they add actual pumpkin in or pumpkin pie spice. Or one of my personal favorites is like an almond joy oats where I add cacao, unsweetened shredded coconut, some unsweetened coconut milk to the oats with, some almond butter and a little bit of banana because we always need a fruit. Or maybe we put it on the side. Vegetable egg muffins that you could use leftover vegetables maybe from the night before, where you put the eggs into a muffin tin, or maybe you do just a big Pyrex dish and make it almost like an egg bake, and maybe a little bit of low-fat sharp cheddar cheese if dairy is in your diet. And you could bump up the protein by using egg whites instead. Not that egg yolks are the devil. It just adds a little extra calories from fat, and then the egg whites are just pure protein. So that's how you could boost that up, or add cottage cheese in to give it a little extra. Oh, sorry, I have a background light that helps. My apartment's kind of dark. Um, to give it a little bit more fluffiness and also protein as well. You could do oat muffin bakes as well. Or like I said with the eggs, make it into a big Pyrex dish where you're combining the oats, the protein powder, the fruit, of course, baking soda, a little salt, and almond milk, and maybe some peanut butter, and you mix that together and bake it in the oven. That could be a great tool. Greek yogurt parfaits are a wonderful tool as well, along with protein toast. Some people do French toast casseroles and replace the milk with a protein shake. That's also a good way to boost up your protein. And of course, there's eggs in there. Smoothies, I often hear from individuals, I don't have enough time to make smoothies in the morning. A quick hack is you could take the smoothie cup, put everything that can go in the refrigerator in that cup in the night before. Protein powder, half a banana maybe, some chia seeds, almond milk, maybe some spinach. And then the morning of, if you use frozen fruit, which gives it a really nice texture, you just have to grab a handful of frozen fruit, or I like to keep a measuring cup sometimes in there just to check my portions. Put that in there, and then you just have to cap it and blend it in the morning as long as noise is not an issue. Some individuals go as far as to pre-blend it, pour it into an ice cube tray. So then in the morning they just pop the ice cube tray and then just puree it really quickly and then they're out the door. Or a portable portable smoothie blender, which they now sell at Target or TJ Maxx for like $12 to $25, depending on the one you get. Egg bakes, quiches, like we talked about, cottage cheese parfait, same thing as a Greek yogurt parfait. So the difference between a parfait as a snack versus a meal, a snack typically has like one topping like fruit, where to make it more of a meal, so it holds you over a little longer, maybe to lunch or that mid-morning snack, you add fruit on top, maybe a little bit of nuts, and then maybe like a high protein cereal like Catalina Crunch or Seven Sundays, or you could add like a third of a cup of granola, for example. Chia pudding is another great option to keep protein a little higher so it's a little bit more sustainable. You can make a bunch of these in bulk, similar to the parfaits or the oats, for example, where you take a couple tablespoons of chia seeds, depending on your dietary portions, maybe a half a protein shake or some almond milk with protein powder, half a cup of Greek yogurt, and that's your base to make chia pudding. And then similar to the oats, you could flavor it so many different ways. You can make pina colada flavor, berry flavor, mango flavor. So you're just changing up the fruit and maybe some of the toppings, or maybe you add vanilla extract in or different seasonings. So you don't have to make it always the same way as well. Egg sandwiches or burritos, people will make in advance and then often freeze. I have a lot of young high school athletes that really love this concept. So then maybe you just put it in the toaster in the morning or the microwave in the morning, and then you're donezo. So it's a good way to plan ahead. And don't feel guilty about buying pre-prepared options. Yes, of course, you want to aim for as minimally processed as possible, but we have to be realistic with ourselves, like, and our time. So some of us would love to make homemade hummus, homemade tzatziki, for example, right? But we have to be realistic that, okay, if I'm just starting to work this into my diet, or I'm just starting to make time, like Christina said, look at where we fall on the meal prep spectrum, and then we just keep challenging ourselves and growing along the way. So you can get maybe some pre-marinated, pre-portioned salmon, for example. Maybe you buy some black bean burgers, or you make a bunch in bulk, or you get the pre-grilled chicken from the store, or chicken salad or tuna salad. That's okay. Maybe you pick up the Amy Lou brand chicken meatballs, so that you just come home, put those on the saute pan, make boil some water with some protein pasta like Goodles or Barilla protein or some edamame pasta, depending on your soy needs, and maybe a side of frozen broccoli. So it's a very quick 3-ingredient meal, and maybe top it with some Rao's sauce, for example. Chicken or turkey sausage, especially by Applegate, can be great and quick. And then maybe you get some pre-cut, bell peppers and onions. That's wonderful. And then maybe you do a side of white sticky rice. The sticky rice does have what's called resistant starch, which is also great for our gut health to help build up, the mucosal lining in there. Frozen vegetables, no shame in that game. Often frozen vegetables and certain fruits, based on the season of the year, have more vitamins and minerals than fresh produce. So for example, berries between, May and the end of July, go for it, buy them fresh because they're going to come more locally. But if it's the middle of the winter, maybe I'm going to buy them frozen, because a lot of them come from California. And when they're frozen, they're flash frozen. And what that does is it preserves it at peak ripeness and holds the nutritional value of that fruit in that moment, versus them getting sprayed to Guam with different pesticides and then finally shipped across the country, put on the shelves, and then we finally buy it and then we finally eat it. It could be degraded up to 50% of its nutrient value, but still look beautiful and bountiful because it's sprayed. So frozen, you want to definitely check ingredients for sure, but often it's just the vegetable or just the fruit. So we want to definitely be reading labels. Pre-cut produce, yes, there's going to be a little bit more cost because there's more labor and time put into it, but then you're saving your time as well, and time is valuable. Pre-made sauces or spreads, we'll get into that. What are some better brands? But you can lean on that. Like I said, the Rao's sauce to help with that meatball dish we talked about, versus making a whole pot of sauce. Of course, love Sunday sauce, but you got to be realistic sometimes. Some weeks it's like a dimmer, meaning some weeks there's more time to make things fresh. Some weeks there's less time, so we just adjust the dimmer, but we're not flicking the light switch on and off saying, I get homemade or I buy out. We adjust with the time that we have available. Salad bags, use caution, of course, and maybe we don't use the dressings in there or certain toppings, but you can use like a Seven Superfoods brand salad bag, and then maybe some broccoli slaw, and then maybe some fresh spinach and arugula. And now you haven't even picked up a knife, and you have a large variety of color in your salad. Maybe you throw some pre-cut bell peppers on top, maybe some grape tomatoes, and wow, haven't even had to pick up a knife and we have a nice salad, maybe some shredded carrots, and you could top with a black bean burger or a chicken burger as a quick option, and maybe some beans. You have a starch, you got plenty of vegetables, and you got a protein. Olive oil with a balsamic or something as the dressing, super minimal time to make. It sounds like a lot because I listed a lot of different foods, but really it's quite simplistic. Pre-made grains or quick cook grains like the 1 minute rice or the rice and quinoa mixtures. That's wonderful to lean on. That's okay. So no shame in that game. These are just some quick examples of what we're touching upon, but like the cauliflower rice could be on there, especially too. And now I'm seeing a lot more pre-shredded rotisserie chicken, even at places like Aldi. So just to help save you time when you need tuna salad, chicken salad, egg salad, depending on where it's coming from, of course, can be a good option. These are just some fun things we saw on Instagram that detail what we're explaining. So on the far left, an easy, fun seasonal way to meal prep for a high protein day. And then in the middle here, of course, is a Mediterranean diet lunch planner where you choose your grain, like we're saying, you choose your protein, you choose your fat, you choose your veggie, aka your color, and then you choose some flavor at the end. So it just breaks it up in a very simplistic stepwise approach. And I think the biggest thing here is knowing our food groups, right? So maybe take that time. I know it sounds kind of funny, but a lot of us struggle with knowing our food groups or what is in each food. Food logging, even for a few days, can really help to reinforce that. And then you're just thinking in a very stepwise process of going through, can I have a grain or a starch, a protein, a fat, a fruit or a vegetable if it's lunch or dinner? And breakfast should really have a fruit, but if you can get, some veggies in there, great. Both is wonderful. And then lastly, some kind of flavor so that you enjoy it. And it's not just your classic bodybuilder, brown rice, chicken, and broccoli. These are just some examples of quick ingredient meals, but we're going to give you some recipes. So we keep mentioning adding flavor, right? Because you want to like what you're eating, so you're going to return to it, or nothing's worse than like when you meal prep something for yourself and you're like, I really just don't want this. And then we've wasted the time or money on making that. And then we're like, all right, let's just order DoorDash instead because this doesn't really appeal to me. Often, if that happens, sometimes it's lacking of flavor. So these are just some quick, easy brands that can add flavor. A lot of them, like Primal Kitchen, you'll see on here, has a whole slew of different sauces and spreads. And same, especially with Bolthouse. Bolthouse uses Greek yogurt instead of cream. So it does drive the calories down, but specifically it's unwanted calories from like saturated fat, which depending on the source, in this case, typically dressings, it's more of an inflammatory saturated fat. And same with the GHUs. There's a bunch of, low sugar barbecue sauces that they make as well. Rayo's, there's a ton of different variety of marinaras. But of course, if you can do it homemade, with herbs and spices, please do. Especially these chicken marinades are just some quick examples here on the side that you're going to get a copy of these slides. And same with the link to this herbs and spices flavoring guide. I'm going to open it and hope that my screen shares. Um, let's see. Do you guys see the herbs and spices flavoring guide? Yay! It worked. Okay, technology. Sorry, I usually have issues with that. So poultry, these are just some example combinations. Maybe you buy, a Mrs. Dash or a Kinder's brand seasoning mix. Okay, that's fine. Go for it. If you grow your own herbs and dry them, or you buy just single herbs in the grocery store, these are just some good combinations for fish, green vegetables, yellow orange vegetables, depending on the season and what you're making, cheese and eggs, beef. So you guys will have this in your presentation as you're getting the slides, and this is linked in the slides for us. So now I'm back to the presentation. Just going to widen the screen again. My laptop can be a little slow. All right, we're back to the presentation. Do you guys see that now? Yay, thank you for the nods, guys. Much appreciated. So step 3 is check your cabinets or fridge. So this could be interchangeable with like when you pick your recipes, like Christina said, maybe you're going through your fridge and you're like, I need to get rid of this stuff, so I'm going to add this to my meal prep. Or you are going through these steps and you're trying to figure out what you have to make these recipes. So it's good to keep a stocked kitchen with different staples. So like we went through different seasonings. So if there's certain flavors that you really love, for me, I love cumin, so I try to make sure I don't run out of cumin and garlic, but everyone, gets called to different things. Love keeping like some Ceylon cinnamon always in stock for even coffee in the morning, overnight oats. Sometimes you use it in soups or sweet spots. Packaged foods, like we mentioned, some of those pre-made quick items so that you can put together something in a pinch as needed. Like natural nut butters are always great to lean on, of course, keeping flour as needed. If you're in a pinch, you could take oatmeal and blend it in a blender dry and make that into an oat flour. So that's just a great hack. In your dry storage cabinet, maybe it's great to keep some brown rice or quinoa on hand, cans of beans, or the glass jar Jovial brand beans. They're pre-fermented, and then you're, coming less in contact with the metals. And of course, cooking oils. You got to keep olive oil on hand. Okay. So olive oil, avocado oil. Grapeseed oil, even though it's a seed oil, is one of the more anti-inflammatory oils. Sesame oil, avocado oil, like we said, for high heat grilling. Sesame oil is for certain recipes that really call to it. It adds a nice flavor, especially for different Asian culinary needs. It can be a tool for sure. But olive oil, we want to try to make it our primary cooking oil, as it's rich in what's called oleocanthal, which is a very potent antioxidant, and it's very rich in monounsaturated fats. So those are heart healthy fats, and that's part of what makes olive oil the cornerstone food of the Mediterranean diet. So we're not saying get all these things. It says Mediterranean grocery list, but see it as these are just some good staples, maybe to keep on hand when you go grocery shopping, that you pick a couple things from each section if you don't already have it stocked up in your kitchen. So again, this is here for you guys to refer to. Maybe you take this slide and print it out, put it on your fridge or on the inside of like a dry storage cabinet. It could be a great tool just to refer to, because many of us know these foods, but sometimes it helps to see it in sections to make sure you have a couple from each section. Step 4 is to make a list, right? So we went through our cabinets, we looked at when we're available to cook, we picked out some recipes, or maybe we decided to do that 3x3 concept, and now we want to make a list. We got to keep ourselves organized. So sometimes I often really like this planner, because on the left it has the days of the week and 3 different lines underneath. So you could label it like BLD and lay out maybe 2 to 4 different breakfasts. And then often I jump lunch and I pick out dinner. And based on what I'm making for dinner, I might see what I have left over to repurpose. So maybe I'm making a bunch of grilled chicken or chicken cutlets or something for the night and doing it with, a sauce of some kind. Maybe I'm making a franchise or whatnot. Then I might take that before I, mix it with the sauce and have a few extra left over just without the sauce to throw into a sandwich or a protein bowl for lunch. So you could lay out, 2 to 4 from each category: breakfast, lunch, dinner. But then we want to be realistic with ourselves, right? Snacks are okay, right? Especially between lunch and dinner. Often we eat lunch around noon, dinner maybe around 6-ish. So we don't want to be going those 6 hours without eating, especially if we're very active. So, we want to try to aim for 3 to 4 hours to eat every 3 to 4 hours. So maybe plan in some snacks, right? That would be really enjoyable. Pick out some protein-rich snacks, some carbs, some fat. So like maybe you keep nuts on hand. Maybe you grab some protein bars. Maybe you like shrimp cocktail. Maybe you made tuna salad for a lunch one day, but it's not enough to make a sandwich. So maybe you're going to have a little bit with some crackers as a snack. So plan for snacks. And if you know you always get a sweet craving, that's okay. Most of us do. I know I do. So factor that in and maybe we plan ahead for those cravings. And we just try to make easy swaps like the Clio Greek yogurt bars or no bake energy bites to be able to make, or stuffed dates, for example, just to stay ahead of and know ourselves. And I think that's very important. So lastly is nothing's worse than like having to go back in the grocery store. Like I was just in the produce aisle, but I forgot to grab the spinach. Organize it by section so that it keeps you organized in the store. Making a list is great because I find I save some dinero that day that way. So I'm not buying extra or forgetting something and then having to go back. So make that list. It's often great to plan using sometimes like an Instacart or like a Whole Foods app as if you're going to buy the groceries from the meal delivery service, because you could check the price points, you could look at what's on sale, you could see what's in stock or not in stock before you go. So you could get into the store and get out. You could read the labels in advance so you're not getting stuck in the aisle and then you're like, am I taking up space? I might as well just grab it and then go. Look in advance if that's something you're really interested in. But it's okay to take up space too. So going to the grocery store and going shopping. So if you're someone that likes to be around crowds, go when it's crowded. But if you're someone that gets flustered and likes to read labels, try to pick off-peak times to go, like the early morning on the weekends, or like I said, maybe during the weeknight. Just be aware of when the shelves can be a little bit more picked through or not. You get to know your local grocery store. Mediterranean market style of shopping, just like we said, picking foods from that Mediterranean pantry staples list. You can do the market style in the way of maybe you go to the butcher for some things, the fish shop for others, the produce grocer like a meat farms for certain things. You could be particular maybe about certain places, just it does add a little bit more time, but it's also nice to get to know different community members and small businesses. Even the farmers markets, up until about November, you still have the farmers markets out. So that also falls into this Mediterranean old school market style of shopping, as the superstores slash grocery stores are still a relatively new concept. Old school, check out the circular. I remember always going through the circular with my mom as a kid and circling things. Now it's usually on like an app, or you could look at the other what's it called? The grocery delivery services just to see. Sometimes when making my list, I click the on sale section as if I was going to buy via delivery, and I see what meats might be on sale or snacks, different like high value items, and then maybe I cultivate my meals based on what I see on sale. Go generic. At times, the store brand is just the same thing as the name value brand, right? Nothing's wrong with getting, the ShopRite brand of frozen produce. It's often the same thing. Buy only what you plan to eat, right? Because sometimes we buy too much and then we're cleaning out the fridge, and like Christina said, oh, this is going moldy, or this I didn't use up, or this went bad. So buy what you plan to eat. And worst case, we just stop on the way home if we forgot something, or send a loved one. Avoid going hungry. So going to the store hungry. I know me, I'm more likely to stop in the grocery section and get a cookie or something. So just be realistic about that, because sometimes things will look more appealing and then we overbuy. We want to think color and variety in our cart. So just as we make our plate according to that, almost 50% vegetables, 1/4, starches like beans, grains, starchy vegetables, and then 1/4 a protein with fat as a little bit for flavor. Maybe consider laying out your cart that way. When you look at your cart, does it represent those percentages? That could also be a quick tool. Pre-prepared when needed, like we said. And if it's a really busy week, there's no shame in ordering some groceries. I know some of us might get fearful of what they pick out for us. If you use Instacart, you can have someone say they deliver the groceries and they do an awesome job and you really like them, and they also can message you throughout and say, is this good? You can keep in touch with the shopper with Instacart and say they do an awesome job and they're really sweet, and you help them bring the groceries in, and it's a great to the door, and it's a really great interaction. You can maybe go onto the app and ask them to be like your preferred shopper, and you prefer, you guys know, okay, Fridays at blah, blah, blah time, we do this, right? So Instacart could be a great tool. Amazon does a wonderful job. And if they're out of something, most of these apps like Peapod, Instacart, Amazon, if they're out, you'll get a message saying, "Hey, we're out of this brand of eggs. Are you okay with this substitute?" You have to be on top of your phone though, in that when they start to shop and you would say, "No, I'm not okay with that, but I want to add this instead." Or just omit it. Don't worry about it. Thank you though. So there is still that option. Hungry Root can be a great tool too. They do let you pick the recipes and snacks or bulk proteins in advance. So with Hungry Root, it's a little laborious at first in that they ask a lot of questions about your likes, your dietary needs, how much you need of how many breakfasts, how many lunches, how many dinners, do you want bulk proteins? Do you want, added snacks? Because it does try to get to know you. But after that, it's pretty seamless. And with Hungry Root, it's something you could skip weeks and not be billed. So it's something that you could use maybe once every 2 months or 3 months for a busy week. And they give you, say, a package of beans, a package of chicken, some, vegetables, some seasonings. And it's kind of like Blue Apron or HelloFresh, where you assemble it, but it is super fast meals and often healthier brands. Well, not health, but better brands is what I should say. Thrive Market, Misfits Market are great tools, especially if you have different dietary needs, gluten-free, soy-free, dairy-free, that you could find those brands that might not be in conventional stores. So they're just good to know about, and they are delivery. So we mentioned the market style of shopping, very Mediterranean concepts of going to the produce individual for produce, going to the meat market for meat, going to the pork store for pork, going to the fish market for fish, examples. So that's considered a Blue Zones tip. It involves, walking more, but also better interactions with different individuals, getting to know your community. Why it can be helpful is you tend to find like fresher, more nutrient-rich produce that way, especially with the farmers market. You're supporting the local economy, encourages intuitive meal planning. So, Joe the butcher says he got in this really great grass-fed steak this week, and it was from X, Y, and Z farm. I'm gonna try to grab that. It looks like a really good cut of meat, for example. And it could reduce reliance on ultra-processed foods. So it's recommended to try shopping with a market mindset by picking some more in-season produce. That could be a tool. When produce is in season, it's more local, has a higher nutrient value often versus when it's out of season. And of course, it's great to consider walking or biking when feasible, depending on how much groceries you're getting. Step 6, though, would involve getting cooking. So when you get in the door from the grocery store, or maybe a little after, we want to try to chop the produce, maybe grill the meat, set up that 3x3 in advance so that you can just assemble when you do go to cook. It's going to save you time on the back end, and your future self will likely thank you. Lay out those meals in advance, clean the produce, maybe with some vinegar, water, for example. Rinse and drain the beans from the cans. Maybe make it into an easy bean salad with some fresh parsley and some olive oil, maybe a vinegar of some kind to give it a little oomph of flavor, and put it in a glass Tupperware. Especially getting organized. So when you put the groceries in the fridge, making sure everything has an organized home, like how Christina mentioned with the fridge layout earlier. Maybe it's steaming or roasting vegetables on a sheet pan in advance, so you can throw it into quick recipes. It's about trying to get as much done as you can in advance. So Christina went over this already, but just a reminder is just to consider the fridge layout, the cabinet layout when you do get in, just so you keep yourself organized for when you go to cook maybe later in the week or later in the day, that you know where everything is. Nothing's worse than wasting your time, looking for something that you just had, you just touched. And you're like, I just saw this earlier. Everything should have a home. So some tips and tricks to help get it done. Of course, there really is no such thing as multitasking. It's all single tasking really, and then just switching tasks, but multitask when possible, right? So maybe you're baking some salmon and asparagus at the same time on a sheet pan in the oven, or maybe you're making some chicken cutlets on the stove while boiling some water at the same time. But do what you're comfortable with, right? You don't want to over push and then, God forbid, something gets burned or a fire or who knows, right? So multitask when possible. A French term, mise en place, is putting everything in place. So even when you're cooking, right, keeping everything organized, lay out the portions first that you're going to use, because sometimes you're making a recipe and you didn't maybe it's happened to me. I didn't realize, oh, it has to be cut this kind of way, and now I'm up to this point in the recipe, and now I'm wasting time cutting when I needed to add this already, for example. So get everything organized first, put everything in its home, and measure everything out so that when you go to cook, you just are implementing at that point. Make it fun, make it enjoyable. Maybe you put on a podcast, an audiobook, some good music. Maybe you're doing it with your family. So these are just some quick kitchen organization tools that you could see here. But if you scroll through different apps like LTK or Lemon8 or Amazon, you can find different organizational tools that will fit your need. Sometimes it's great to have a little magnet dry erase board on the fridge. They do make ones that are specific for meal prep. Maybe that's where you lay out the meals for the week. So it's in sight, in mind. We don't forget what we did plan originally. And it's also something you could make as a meeting spot with the family. Hey guys, we're picking out options so that everyone's on the same page. And then you make your grocery list from there, take a picture, and then go. I also use the dry erase board as like if, say, we run out of minced garlic. When I run out, it goes right on the dry erase board on the fridge so that when I do make my grocery list, I already have that list of things that got, that ran out, and I just, already have that recorded. Especially for busy weeks too, meal prep delivery services can be a tool, or on the island now, there's a lot more meal prep stores available. So like Hummus Fit is another one that's really popular, along with Redefine Meals and Healthy Meals Direct. I really do like Hummus Fit and Redefine Meals. They have typically like a protein, a starch, and some vegetables. The classic with most of these meal prep services is the vegetables are a little light and they're a little salty. So you want to make sure that if you're using this, maybe some other meals in your day, it depends on your sodium needs, how much you're sweating, your potassium intake, everyone's an individual. But, factoring for the salt, compensating with some water, especially, and also give it a boost of vegetables. Maybe add some frozen vegetables to it or a side salad. But what's great is you can truly eat with your eyes with these stores, that you can go into the store, hold the meal, see the meal. Maybe if it's a busy week, you pick out, 2 to 5 meals just to supplement some lunches or some dinners. And what's nice with Hummus Fit is there's different, low, medium, high calories for different needs. They all also have the nutrition facts and ingredients on them. So you could see exactly what you're buying. If you're someone who's logging your food intake, it does simplify it because you can scan the barcode and it would go right into your food logging app. So there is added steps of processing with this, right? It's a little bit more processed. Sometimes you question the meat sourcing. Redefined Meals does often use some grass-fed meats and healthier oils, of course, in their meals. And they also can sell bulk protein options, like maybe you just want to buy a big thing of chicken, or maybe you want to buy just a big thing of ground turkey already made. That's there for you. If cooking is something that you're getting new to, or it's something that maybe we're reestablishing our relationship with cooking, make it fun, make it something you want to do, right? So maybe you invite some friends to cook on, Friday. Hey guys, we're going to make a movie and cook a great meal together. I know I've done that with friends when we've gone on vacation, and they're like, what is Amanda doing? That's such added, labor. And then we actually all cooked a meal together and sat down, and it was everyone. We always do like a peek in a pit, what's people's highlights of the trip, and it was many people's favorite things is that we all cooked a meal together and sat down and enjoyed it. Sometimes it's bringing friends over. I have a close friend, she does chop challenges with different friends where they pick a certain unique produce item or meat or something that they're interested in learning how to cook. and they challenge each other almost like a potluck style, who can make the best meal, right? And they all like taste it and they make, make it into a fun night. And yet, everyone made a different dish and is learning from each other. And it becomes a fun little competition if you're interested in stuff like that. Cooking with your significant other could be a date night, right? Wow, look at this amazing, tasty meal we made together as a team. How cool is that, right? Healthy twist on comfort food, right? It doesn't mean giving up our favorite foods. You can, make a healthy version of a chicken pot pie, for example, or, make it enjoyable that even if you're doing it alone. Sometimes I like to cook alone because it's just some time to relax and be in my own thoughts, or maybe play some music or a good podcast, or put on like an easy show on the background that you can like half pay attention to, like a show like The Office, maybe. Make it an enjoyable space you want to be in, right? Try a new ingredient or preparation method. Maybe you have a barbecue. Um, People are amazing, so keep your mind open to new friends and interactions, maybe at different cooking nights, like at a Sur La Table, say, or a Babylon Mercantile, as a way of just meeting new people. Next is the power of the family meal table. So this comes from blue zones where people tend to live to elder ages, greater than 90s, 100, so our centenarians, and you're taking different ideas of people from those regions that as to what is believed to help them live to that ripe age. So they tend to come from families that prioritize shared meals. And listen, we can pick our family. It doesn't have to be our exact family members. It could be friends too, right? So it can help to strengthen social bonds. Like maybe if you have a neighbor that is an elderly widower, right? Maybe, and you have a good friendship, maybe invite them over for a meal, right? So strengthen social bonds. It can help to promote slower, more mindful eating because you're stopping to talk and take in each other's days. It can encourage healthier food choices. I know I fell into positive social peer pressure with friends in that, say, a friend was eating a different vegetable, maybe that would make me want to eat that vegetable when I was younger. Set positive habits for younger generations as they try to mirror us. They watch what we eat. So if we're eating those vegetables, for example, they might, it might become more normalized to them. They might feel more comfortable. And it does count as one of those exposures to different foods, as sometimes it takes 7+ exposures to a different food for a child to truly accept it. It can be a place to pass down different values to different generations when eating on a family meal table. And like I said, food role modeling or exposure. So there could be a fun challenge that you make with this, where you create a dedicated family or household meal space. It does help with pace of eating and portions when you are sitting down in a relaxed manner to eat. It's better for digestion. Set intentions for the meal. Maybe we turn off devices, light a candle or add flowers. Or maybe, we are living in that busy New York minute. So maybe you aim for 1 to 3 times a week, right? Don't set the standard of 7 days a week, but maybe there's certain days of the week that it's more of a priority because it's better for everyone's schedules. Something my dorky friends and I would do in college is we would all put our phones in the middle and like stack them. And whoever touched their phone first would have to pay for the tip. So you can make it something fun, you know. But like we said, social connection and longevity are tied to the family meal table. So it can link to reduced risk for dementia, depression, and early death. Shared meals can bring about more belonging, less loneliness, intergenerational support, right? So if you're taking the time, maybe with your elders, you're learning more about your family history, or maybe it brings up conversation about something that you're really struggling with that maybe someone can help you, or vice versa. Maybe you're noticing something in a younger family member and you help out. But people with stronger community bonds are more likely to engage in healthier behaviors long term. And here are some sources below. And how do we make all this work in the modern day? Like we said, this is more of a recap. Meal prep together on Sundays, right? Maybe you're starting to teach the kids different habits. Maybe they're at the age you could show them how to peel a potato, or, cut different things depending on their age and of course skills. Maybe you're teaching them how to boil water, but you don't want to have them pour the water just yet. That could be dangerous. Or maybe they're helping you organize the fridge. Small tasks can build comfort in the kitchen and start to create routine for them too. And then eventually, hey, doesn't hurt to delegate a little bit too, to save your time. Do a fridge inventory together and then plan 3 meals. Use colorful bowls, cloth napkins, maybe a shared playlist. Romanticize your life, right? Make it a space you want to be in. Like we said, the flowers or essential oils. Start a market style basket that has more of the seasonal produce and it keeps it in sight and in mind. Or, throw back to victory gardens, right? Or window gardens or those indoor arrow gardens, right? That maybe you start to do that in the winter as a way to get fresh herbs, or you grow them outside during the summer. So these are all different ways we could make it modern, but still call back to old ways that have been shown to be helpful for longevity. Local farmers markets, or this is a list of markets that are great, but they're not limited to. We're very lucky on Long Island that a lot of townships offer this. Also local farms to shout out, right? We love Sangley Farms. Their CSA drops off produce for us at Functional Nutrition RX / Elevation Fitness, as we're all located under one roof every Tuesday. And they also drop off for their winter CSA program, where what they're growing on the farm and harvesting the week before gets put into shares and dropped off for each individual person that has signed up. You can also visit Sangley. I recently went to a couple of their herbalism classes, but they have you pick figs, they have a play set for the kids. They also just have a drive up market that you can go pick out local produce. I want to say it's Southold. I always get those towns out there mixed up, but it is more out east. There's Richter's Orchard over here near Northport. Catapano Dairy Farm, just almost across the street from Sangley's. Of course, there's Harbs, Woodside Orchards, Patty's Berries is a great place. It's a small local business across the street from Harbs where you can go pick berries, peaches. She does fresh flowers, fresh reeves. I can't speak English today. Fresh reeves. And then, of course, makes homemade ice cream from the produce. Sweet Woodland Farm for different herbs or elderberry syrups. These are just a small list. We're fortunate on the island that there are farms and of course upstate. So most importantly, we want to say thank you to you guys for your time and for tuning in tonight. We hope that you picked up at least 1 to 3 interesting things that you want to start to implement in your days and in your meal prep regimen. Of course, connect with us at Functional Nutrition RX. We're available by phone, email, Instagram. We also provide nutrition counseling with registered dietitians covered by insurance. And we're also looking to do a couple more seminars in the upcoming months. For example, a Whole30 challenge, a detoxification, liver health, low toxin presentation, diabetes presentation for National Diabetes Month, and of course, a healthy holidays presentation. So you could always find that on our Instagram and through our newsletter and blasts. But most importantly, I'm going to open up the chat now and just see, does anyone have any questions? So, of course, please shout out if you have any questions, but we're going to send you this recording in the form of a YouTube link, as well as the slides and some meal prep recipes in that email. So keep a lookout for that. It will come from me. My name is Amanda Reichart, so you'll see Amanda at Functional Nutrition RX. That will be the email. And I'm just combing through the chat just to make sure nothing's missed, because sometimes it's hard for me to check that while I'm presenting. But it doesn't look like there's any questions. And most importantly, if you, oh, I see Natasha, you mentioned 3x3. So 3x3. 3x3 is picking 3 different proteins, 3 different starches, and 3 different vegetables so that you can prep them in bulk and then mix and match. So say you want to make a soup, a salad, a sandwich, a protein bowl, or an a la carte meal, you could take one of the 3 proteins, one of the 3 pieces of produce, and one of the 3 starches to mix and match based on your needs. We will also be sending out the recording to, oh, starches are carbs, yes. So that's like beans, that's like quinoa, whole grains, root vegetables, or like potatoes, peas, corn, squash. Starches would be in the carb section, but those would be what you call complex carb. So there's still lots of vitamins, minerals, and fiber in them. But I hope everybody has a wonderful night. If you haven't eaten dinner already, eat a tasty dinner and be well. Thank you.